How's it going, everybody? I'm Steve, and welcome back. So, as a lot of you may know, in July and November, usually Barnes& and Noble does a 50% off Criterion sale. So we're all kind of expecting that. They haven't missed one of those, and I don't know exactly when they started doing them, and I don't think they've ever missed one since they started doing 50% off. So we're expecting it to happen again. Anybody that's in the Criterion community are expecting it to happen. So tonight I want to give my 10 recommendations here. I kind of pulled, I have my criterions over here, and I just kind of pulled like 10 that I think some are really popular. A lot of these are not extremely popular, but I mean, they're kind of like, I think people in the Criterion community would know them, but just people, regular movie fans may not know them as well. But a lot of these directors are really famous directors, and I think some really great work in here. And if you saw the thumbnail, I only listed like 9 of these because it was like my number one is one that if you see the packaging, it's kind of obvious what it is. So I didn't want to kind of give it away yet. But so these are kind of loosely ranked. They're going from like least to most rewatchable, I think. But I think all these are great. I don't think any of these are bad movies at all. I think they're all really solid. That's why I'm recommending them today. So starting it off here. This director is kind of famous in Hollywood for making like action movies, and this is actually a debut film from 1981, spy number 691. It's the movie Thief. This is from the famous director Michael Mann. If you've ever seen Heat, Manhunter, he's done some really great work over the years. But this is his debut. It's starring James Caan. I think it's outstanding. It's not extremely high budget. A lot of Criterion, stuff that some people might consider to be like art house or like independent films. A lot of times they're not extremely high budget, and so the directors really have to get creative at how they do things and how they show them off. And you can kind of see in this movie, you can definitely tell, what he would do. Like next, I think he did maybe a couple of movies before he started doing Miami Vice. That's why I know Michael Mann the most from that TV show when I was a kid. 1984. I was 11 years old. That show it was on Friday nights, and I just couldn't believe just where it went. With Crockett and Tubbs, Don Johnson, all that. Just the fame for at least 3 or 4 years. That show was like one of the highest rated shows on TV. Michael Mann was great, and he did some great films after that TV series as well. So this is I definitely recommend this at number 10. So at number 9 from 1944, this is a spy number 1153. And the movie is Arsenic and Old Lace. This is a movie I just discovered like last year, or maybe a year or two ago. And it's kind of a scary movie in a lot of ways. It was based on a Broadway play, and they kind of delayed this movie for like 3 years at the time because it's directed by Frank Capra, and the Broadway play was so popular that they didn't want this conflicting with the play, and they wanted to wait till the play had finished before they got this movie out in theaters. So it took like 3 years to actually show this movie, but it's starring Cary Grant. He's really great in this movie. It's just, the family in this movie are just kind of nuts and crazy. It's a comedy, but also really it's kind of a dark comedy now. A lot of people would consider that to be now, but if you know the story, it's ludicrous, like how kind of nutty this family is, and it's so much fun, and to me, it's a movie that you can definitely watch. October around Halloween time. It's one of those kind of films that I think anybody can like this too. It's not something that's just a Criterion viewers would like. It's really for movie fans. I think you would enjoy it. It definitely has kind of a play, kind of like a Broadway play or a playwright kind of look to it, because a lot of it takes place in the same location. But Cary Grant is just a lot of movies. He has a lot of movies in the Criterion collection, and this one's definitely worth checking out. Okay, number 8. I actually have 2 documentaries in this top 10 here. I really like documentaries, and the 2 I have in this are actually 2 of my favorite documentaries of all time. But this is from 1994. It's spy number 289, and the movie is Hoop Dreams. Fantastic. It follows these 2 young men that are basically, they're in high school, and they want to make the NBA someday. Who wouldn't if you had that kind of ability to make that kind of money? It's just that's what the Hoop Dreams is. It's just taking these kids out of kind of out of poverty and getting wealthy. It's just by doing something you love and something you're really good at. But this movie's directed by Steve James, starring William Gates and Arthur Agee Jr. These are both these aren't really like famous people necessarily, but I thought they did a great job. And the movie's kind of long. It's like almost like 3 hours long, but you just kind of follow this journey with these two young men through. I think I don't know if it's like 5 or 6 years or so, but and there's a really heartwarming scene with one of the mothers and what she finds out, from her studies and school and stuff. It's so great that to me it's really, like I said, it's heartwarming. This is a movie that Roger Ebert and Siskel and Ebert made this movie famous, really, because it takes place in Chicago, and they championed this movie so much on their channel back in the 80s, early 90s, and so like I said, it's 1994. So, but they love this movie so much it made their like top 10 list that year. It's a movie they talked about all the time, and they're really the ones that made it popular. It really is. Without them, this movie probably wouldn't be as famous as it is, and wouldn't be as great, just because those two film critics just loved it so much, and they kind of inspired everybody to kind of watch it, and so I'm really glad I did. At number 7 from 1984, I have Spy Number 501, and the movie is Paris, Texas. This is directed by Wim Wenders. It's starring Harry Dean Stanton, has Dean Stockwell, has Natasha Kinski. This movie's really great. It's like 2 hours and 25 minutes long, maybe a little bit too long, but this Harry Dean Stanton is the star. And he always said this is like one of his favorite movies, and it's kind of like an indie film in a lot of ways, but I think it's great. I think everything's worth waiting for the third act of this film, and even though the movie's great throughout, but the third act is when everything really pays off quite a bit. And I've always loved this movie. I bought it like 3 or 4 years ago, and I couldn't believe it, like how great the performances are in it. And just like I said, if you see the third act, you'll understand exactly what it means. It's definitely worth checking this out, and I really recommend it. Okay, at number 6, this is actually the only foreign language film I have on my list, but I think it's from one of my favorite directors, somebody I discovered like about 5 years ago. But this is from 1957, Spy Number 190, and the movie is Throne of Blood. A lot of great stuff. It's from Kurosawa. It's starring Toshiro Mifune. Really great. Like Seven Samurai is probably my favorite film from this director. I like Rashomon. I like A Hidden Fortress. A lot of great stuff, but I think this one was best. It's in my top 4 from him. So I think Japanese films are really something that I think everybody can really enjoy. They're really visual kind of movies. So it's like and they're not really extremely heavy on dialogue either. So they're really easy to follow. That's why I think I think everybody around the world can definitely get into these films from Kurosawa. So at number 5 from 1985, I have Spy Number 51, and the movie is Brazil. This is from another one of my favorite directors, Terry Gilliam. I think maybe in a lot of ways, The Fisher King may be my favorite film from him, but I love this, the whole bureaucracy and a lot of the comedy in this movie. It's really kind of a dark comedy, but it just shows like government and just how things can be in that world. But starring Jonathan Pryce, has Robert De Niro's in it. He's not in the movie a ton, but it's really interesting in the mid '80s in a British film to have an American actor like that. It was really great. It also has Ian Holm, just like another alien actor in my top 10 here. And this movie, I know a lot of people have seen Brazil, but I used to have this on the Criterion DVD, and I definitely had to upgrade it to Blu-ray. So this is one that I think everyone should check out if you're a fan of Terry Gilliam for sure. So at number 4 from 1964, Spy Number 1011, I have the movie Failsafe. This is directed by Sidney Lumet. Has Henry Fonda, Walter Matthau. This movie was actually released the same year as Doctor Strangelove from Stanley Kubrick, which is also in the collection as well. This one's definitely much darker than Doctor Strangelove, even though Doctor Strangelove is definitely dark, but it's definitely more of a comedy. And this movie's not a comedy at all. And I remember reading that Stanley Kubrick insisted that his movie get released first before this movie, because he was afraid that if they released a dark movie like this, that people wouldn't laugh at his movie, and that some of the stuff that's supposed to be really humorous in it, kind of making a point while making people laugh as well. That whole thing, kind of driving that home. And this movie's way more straightforward, but it's just as dark as Doctor Strangelove. And Sidney Lumet, you know, I've seen so many great movies from him in recent years. You know, Dog Day Afternoon and Serpico, so much great stuff, and this is one of my favorites from him. So at number 3, like I said, I had 2 documentaries on my list. This is from 1995. It's by number 533, and the movie is Crumb. This is from Terry Zwigoff. But I love this movie. It's about Robert Crumb. He's kind of a cartoonist, really popular in like the 70s, and people know him pretty well. I just love his story. It's just about him and his family, how messed up they are, and how he somehow he turned out somewhat normal compared to his brothers. He definitely turned out much more normal than they did. So, but he's still really weird in a lot of ways. But the movie's really funny. Just a lot of stuff. You know, if you've ever seen the movie American Splendor, that they talk about Robert Crumb in that movie as well. So he was famous at least in like the 70s and like the 80s. People knew him pretty well. But this movie, like I said, it's one of my favorite. It's in my top 5. It may be my number 1 as far as documentaries. You know, and like I said, there's 2 really great ones in the Criterion collection. So I definitely recommend this. If you've ever seen Ghost World, Terry Zwigoff has another film in the Criterion collection, which is Ghost World, and he also has a movie called Louie Bluey as well, which is only available on DVD, not on Blu-ray. But love this one, and I used to have this on DVD years ago before Criterion released it, and when I saw it was on Blu-ray on Criterion, I definitely had to upgrade it. Okay, at number 2 from 1944, I have Spine number 1126, and the movie is Double Indemnity. This is a great movie. It's considered to be like the first film noir. It's it's directed by Billy Wilder. He has 2 other films in the collection, which is Ace in the Hole and Some Like It Hot. But I think probably his favorite movie is from actually on the Kino, and the movie is The Apartment. One of my like grandmother's favorite movies of all time. That movie's really great. That was actually released in 1960. That was a year after Some Like It Hot, But as far as this movie, Fred MacMurray's really great. If you ever saw My Three Sons, and he's also in The Apartment as well. He plays a great character in this. It just kind of shows like crime in 1944. Just amazing what they show. They show like the Hollywood Bowl in the movie, which is really great. I think it's like a set piece, but they're supposed to be at the Hollywood Bowl. But this movie's really kind of dark and interesting kind of story. And it's just like I said, it kind of inspired the film noir genre. So yeah, this is one I definitely might recommend people check this one out. Okay, at number 1 from 2014, so it's 10 years old now. Spine number 1025, and the movie is The Grand Budapest Hotel. This is from Oscar winner Wes Anderson. He just won one. It's for I forgot the name of the show, but it's on Netflix. But he won for that finally. You know, I think he's been nominated several times for Oscars, but he didn't even show up at the Oscars. I think he may have been filming something at the time, so he couldn't be there. But this is so great. It has Ray Fiennes and Willem Dafoe, just to name a couple of actors in the movies. But this is definitely a comedy. It's my favorite my second favorite Wes Anderson movie. Really, the Royal Tenenbaums is really my favorite one because of Gene Hackman and the cast that's in that movie. But this movie is really great too. Like I said, it's a close number 2. I really recommend people check it out. You know, I think even if you don't like Wes Anderson, I think people can actually enjoy this movie. So, all right, everybody, I appreciate you watching. So, I definitely want to recommend people, if you don't already have a Barnes & Noble rewards card, definitely check that out because it's actually free. And for like every $10 you spend, you get like 1 point on your account. Once you get 10 points, you actually get like a $5 coupon. So if you plan on buying a lot of movies next month, it's definitely worth checking that out. Like I said, it's free, and I really appreciate everybody signing up for my channel. And my subscribers numbers have been going up quite a bit, so really appreciate that. And if you can put a thumbs up on this video, I really appreciate that too. It definitely helps with the YouTube algorithm. And everybody have a great one. Thank you.